Hello, I'm Dr. Hassaan Tohid with another amazing topic as usual, how to write a literature review. How to write a literature review. If you watched my previous video on literature review, then you know literature review and traditional review or narrative review are one and the same thing. And literature review terminology can also be used for collecting data and looking for other papers to add in your project. Here we are talking about the study design literature review now. How do you write it? If you have been given a task or a project to write a traditional review or a literature review, how do you begin? How do you actually write it? So let's talk about this. The first thing first to write a literature review or a traditional review is to decide that you really want to write and publish a literature review. Now, the next thing is you plan. What is your plan? When do you want to start? What is the deadline? When do you want to finish it? Because without a deadline, nobody can achieve anything. You must have a sharp, clear, written deadline. If you don't have a deadline, you will not be able to finish that paper. You will keep procrastinating and you will never ever be able to finish it. That's why it's important that you plan with the beginning date and the end date. When do you want to finish it and when do you want to submit it? Now, what do you do next? The next thing is the topic selection. How do you select a topic for your literature review? Remember, literature review is collection of previously published papers. You combine them together and you write one article out of it. So it is a broad topic. It's a broader topic. So how do you decide a topic? Remember, use common sense. What are you passionate about? What do you love the most? What are you crazy about? You have to identify your passion. We all love certain things. We all are passionate for certain things. Like I cannot write a topic related to technology or computers or software, but I can write wonderful papers and topics related to mental health. Similarly, choose your specialty. What do you like the most? What do you love the most? Once you identify what your passion is, the next approach is to formulate it into a research question. Of course, I know traditional review or literature review is a broader topic. You write a paper out of a broader topic. So you don't actually need a research question. Your topic actually serves as your research question. Remember, it will be a broad topic in comparison to a systematic review. Now, once you have identified your topic, let's say your topic is heart problems in Alzheimer's patients. Heart problems in Alzheimer's patients. Now you want to write a traditional review. Now this is a very broad topic. We're not focusing on one particular disease, or we can, let's say, focus on one particular disease, myocardial infarction and Alzheimer's disease. It is still a broad topic. And your research question could be, how common are heart diseases in Alzheimer's disease patients? Or what are the incidences? Or what is the incidence of heart diseases in Alzheimer's patients? Or what is the prevalence of heart disease in Alzheimer's patients? So all of that can serve as your research question. Or how heart diseases and Alzheimer's disease are connected together. Is there a pathophysiology behind it? So that's, let's say, a topic. Now you have a topic. This is your research question as well, because you don't need a PICO question per se here. The typical PICO question is usually for systematic reviews or clinical trials. Here you don't need it. Now let's talk about the next step. What do you do next? Now you need to identify where will you find the data. The data is available on different databases, electronic databases. By electronic databases, what do we mean by electronic databases? Electronic databases are actually websites such as PubMed, PubMed Central, Web of Science, Medline, Scopus, Embase, PsycInfo, and many others. These are certain websites that you use to search data. We call them electronic databases. So don't get scared of this word database or electronic database, especially if you are a new student who is learning research for the first time. Remember, electronic databases are actually the websites where you will find data for review articles, because a review article is a combination of previously published papers. So you identify possibly five databases where you will search data. Now you wrote them down on a piece of paper. You have your topic. Now your plan of writing. How many headings will you have? How many words you will keep in your paper? How many pages will it take to write and complete your paper? Of course, you already have a deadline, and possibly also make a list of the possible journals where you will submit your paper in the end. We'll talk about publishing in some other video, but here just stay with me for writing and submitting. Now, once that is done, now your actual task begins. Now you know your research question, you know your research topic, you know your databases you will search, but what about registration? Do you need to register your traditional review or literature review? Remember, no. You need to register clinical trials That is compulsory by many organizations, by many hospitals, by many universities. But review articles, systematic reviews, for example, they need registration. But for traditional review, literature review, you don't need registration. Systematic reviews are registered on Prospero website most of the time, but that is also optional. So literature review does not need to be registered. You don't need registration issue or problem. Now, what about the IRB approval? Do you need an IRB approval? The review board's approval. So many students ask me this question while writing their review articles. Where do I go for my IRB approval? You don't need an IRB approval to write a review article. That's the good news. You don't need IRB approval if there are no living beings involved. If there are no human beings involved, if there are no animals involved, you don't need IRB approval. An IRB approval is given by an institution, a hospital, or a university if you are working on a university project. But a review article can be done independently sitting at your home. You can easily do that. Yes, I know many people will be surprised at how will I tell the journal what institution I belong to. We will address that. Don't worry about it. Simple answer to that is you just mentioned your university where you graduated from. That's all. You can submit your paper. Journals will not care. Journals will publish it most of the time. If any journal cares about it, then go to another journal, or just mention where you work. You just mention the workplace. You don't have to have a university association to publish a paper. Now, what is the next step? Now the data collection begins. How do you collect data? You go one by one on each website and use your regular keywords that you will decide. For example, in order to search data related to Alzheimer's and heart disease, my keywords will be Alzheimer's and heart, or Alzheimer heart, or Alzheimer myocardium, or Alzheimer cardiac. These can be my keywords. Dementia and heart, dementia and myocardium, dementia and endocardium. So many keywords you can use and you can find your data. Remember, you don't need mesh search strategy here because you're writing a traditional review, literature review. Systematic review is systematic, where you follow certain steps and you make it systematic, but literature review, you don't need that much of hassle. Now, once you collect data, you decide your keywords first. Once you decided your keywords, let's say 5 keywords, 5 combination of keywords. Now you search your data on PubMed. Now go to another database, PubMed Central and Web of Science. Now, if you are not a medical student, then you don't need PubMed or PubMed Central. If you're not a healthcare student or psychology student, just go to simply Web of Science, Google Scholar. If you are an engineering student, use your databases. Search the list of databases in engineering, list of databases in finance, list of electronic databases for research in marketing. Whatever field you belong to, you use your databases. Now, at least 5 databases have been selected, right? You select at least 5 databases and use the same keywords if you want, or you can change the keywords because it's a traditional review. Nobody cares that what keywords did you use. Now, once you use the keywords, you collect data on each database, whatever you found in last 5 years or last 10 years, it's up to you. Remember the inclusion exclusion criteria. Can you use inclusion exclusion criteria in a literature review? It's optional. There is no harm in using it. It's always good to use it, but it is not mandatory either. So you can use studies from the inception to 2021 or 2022 if you're watching this video in 2022 or 23. So it's up to you whether you want to use inclusion exclusion criteria or you don't want to use inclusion exclusion criteria. It's not mandatory. If you use it, I would suggest use the timeline of last 5 years of papers in each database if you can. And then collectively, once let's say you found 100 or 120 or 80 articles, now you are in a good shape. Now you have the data collected. Now 80 and 100 articles is a good number to write a paper out of it. Now, what do you do next? Do you check the quality of these articles that you have collected? No, that's a good thing, an easy thing about traditional review or literature review. You don't need to check the quality, or you don't need to do the critical appraisal of the articles that you have included. Now that means you are just almost there. Now, what is the next step? Organize your data according to your topics or headings. Similar studies, bring them together. Once you have brought them together, give them a title of a heading, a supposed or a projected heading that you will use in your paper. Once you have those headings, maybe 4, 5, or 6 headings, now you know that, okay, these studies, similar studies in one heading, then similar studies in another heading, then similar studies in another heading. So that's how you have like 5, 6 headings, and you have like 10 studies in each heading, or 15 studies in one heading and 20 studies under one heading. So you have organized your data on your data sheet. Once you have done it, now the next step is begin writing. Now, how do you begin writing? Remember the structure of your paper. The IMRAD format is the most common structure. IMRAD, IMRAD. I for introduction, M for method, R for results, and D for discussion. So this is the sequence. If you remember the formula, IMRAD, IMRAD, you will always have the right structure of your paper. So introduction, what do you do in the introduction? Do you start writing introduction? Remember, there are two schools of thought. One believes that you should write the introduction in the beginning. One believes you should write it in the end. So it's up to you, whatever approach suits you. I like to write the introduction section in the beginning. And introduction section will mention what are you doing, why are you doing, and how are you going to do that. So you mention your research question there, the purpose of your paper, the importance of your paper, why are you writing this paper, what are the benefits of writing this paper, and what will you lose if you don't write this paper? What will the audience, the healthcare industry, or people lose if you don't write this paper? So you are actually mentioning the importance of the paper. You're convincing the journal that this topic is important, and not writing can actually be bad for people, and writing it is a good process, is good, is in the interest of people. So that's how you write your introduction section. And you plan how many paragraphs. Usually 3 to 4 paragraphs are enough in an introduction section. And how many references do you keep in your introduction section? Maybe 8 to 15 references are enough, and then you have your introduction section ready. What about the tables and figures? Remember, you already decided while planning how many headings you will keep and how many tables and figures you kept. But it is not a hard and fast rule. You keep modifying it. If you feel that now you may add tables or figures, at least one table and one figure in introduction section, although it is not traditional. Not many people do that. They don't add tables and figures in introduction, but you can do that. It looks good. I like it. Okay, so nobody will stop you. Nobody will ask you why you added diagrams or figures or tables in the introduction section. So it's okay. It's up to you. If you want to do that, wonderful. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Now let's come to the method. Method is, what did you do? How did you collect your data? Remember, the introduction is, what is the problem? So you mentioned the problem by mentioning the research question and the importance. What is the problem? In the method section, you mentioned how did you solve the problem? How did you collect your data? Remember, this section is optional in the traditional review. So you may not have to write it. It's not mandatory. So you can exclude that if you want. But if you do keep it, then keep it up to 400 words. Then the results section, that's also optional. You don't need to keep it. If you do keep it, then again, keep it to 400 words. So methods and results section are optional. So introduction was, what is the problem? What is the problem? And how long is the introduction? 15% minimum of your whole paper. Method section is 400 words. Result section is 400 words, but method and result section are optional. Then comes the discussion section, and discussion is discussion is, what do your findings mean? Results were, what do you find, right? What did you find? Discussion is, what do your findings mean? What are the interpretation and analysis of your results? The analysis and interpretation of your findings. What did you find is results. But what are the meanings of your results? What are the interpretation and analysis of your findings? What did you expect to find but you did not find? All of these come under the discussion section. How big is going to be a discussion section? You know how you can decide that? Remember, normally literature review is either 3,000 words, 4,000 words, or 5,000 words. So it's up to you, whatever size you want to choose. Let's say if you choose 3,000 words, then remember, minimum 15% would be your introduction section. Minimum 15% is 450 words. So minimum 450 words is your introduction section, and up to 800 words is your introduction section. So go with the upper number, 800 words, right? Now, 400 for method, 400 for results, and 400 for conclusion section. In the end, the last paragraph, the last section is your conclusion section. So the remaining words will go into the discussion section. That's it. Simple formula. 400 words for method, 4 for results, 4 for conclusion, and minimum 15% is introduction, maximum 800 words, and the remaining is discussion. So you can easily calculate how many words you can use or keep. And then how many paragraphs, it's up to you. There's no hard and fast rule in discussion section, but I would suggest 5 to 6 paragraphs. So use common sense and keep the number of words in your mind as well, because journals may have their requirements of 3,000 to 5,000 words. So play smart and always keep your paper modifying. Keep your paper modifying. Once you have written the paper and you feel that, okay, it's done, but you see the journal has some requirement of lesser words, then modify it, change it. If the journal wants more words, then modify it, add more information in there, add more articles into the discussion section, comment more, and improve or enhance the length of the paper. So remember, the paper is always under the process of writing. You can never say, I have finished my paper, I have completed my paper. It's a process that requires excellence. There is no perfection in paper. Remember, don't run after a perfect paper. Nobody writes a perfect paper. Nobody ever can write a perfect paper. Even the biggest professor, the most famous professor in the world comes in, he cannot even write a perfect paper because there is no perfection. People can just write excellent paper. Just write the best paper you can under the deadline. That's it. That's why you set a deadline, and just write the best you can within the deadline. Otherwise, you will never ever be able to complete it. And now tables and figures, you bring at least 4 or 5 tables and figures in discussion section. And then the limitation section will be the last paragraph of your discussion, that what are the weaknesses of your paper? Why you feel that this paper is not perfect. Yes, it's okay. People will appreciate you for that. People will appreciate if you mention your own bias, your own mistakes that you feel that you did not do. Or you can say that in this paper, we could not find more animal studies. Otherwise, it could have been a wonderful paper. Something like that you mention in the limitation section. And then the last part is the conclusion, where you mention what is the lesson learned. And how do you write the conclusion section? You just bring the main points of your paper, and then you mention what are your thoughts about it, and then you do future recommendation, that what is the recommendation for future scientists. Once you are done with that, now come to the abstract and write an abstract. Remember what kind of abstract you will write, informative or critical or descriptive. It depends on the journal's requirement, and just go with the journal, see how many words do they accept for the abstract. If there is a word limit, just stick to that. Usually go with the informative kind of abstract, and I will talk about that later more in another video. So this is how you actually write a traditional review, a literature review. So I'll repeat again. Literature review has certain sections: introduction, method, results, discussion, and conclusion in the last, in rat format, and then C is the conclusion, and then the abstract in the end, right? So introduction, I for introduction, M for method, R for results, D for discussion, and then conclusion, and then the abstract. Now remember, method and results sections are optional. Decide the number of words that you will use or you will keep in your paper, and then play accordingly. Remember, minimum 15% is your introduction, then 400 words is your method, 400 words is the results, and the remaining is discussion, and 400 words for discussion. Now if you remove method and results section, then the 800 words that are left will be added to the discussion section. Then you have a bigger discussion section. Tables and figures usually go into the discussion section, but can you add them in introduction section? Absolutely. Now what do you do with the limitation section? Where do you add it? Last paragraph of your discussion before conclusion is the limitation section. Now, once you are done with that, you are done with your conclusion section. Now write the abstract and your paper is done. But remember, always look at other people's papers before writing your paper. I would suggest at least 5 papers. You should see at least 5 papers of other authors published in other different journals to get an idea how people write papers. Get ideas from them, get the idea of the language they have used, get the idea of the tables and figures, what kind of tables and figures people usually use, how long are their paragraphs, how long are their full papers, get ideas from them. And then in the end, once the whole paper is done, then the title of your paper, decide the title in the end. Once the title is decided, you're all set. And again, for the title, you get ideas from previously published papers. So that's how you write a traditional review. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned for another video. Keep learning, keep watching. Thank you.